The Doctor and Joe approach a small island in the English Channel by boat.
There you are, Joe. It's the Master's permanent residence from now on.
Well, let's hope he's still there.
Why wouldn't he be? Ugh. This is going to be one of those farty-sounding synthesized scores, isn't it? Following on from the final story of the previous year, The Demons, which saw the Master finally captured, it's revealed that he is now being held at Her Majesty's pleasure on charges of treason. The Doctor and Joe are transported up to the prison in a Citroën Diane, a noteworthy car because the manufacturers forgot to fit it with any doors. They meet Colonel Trenchard, the governor of the prison.
Has he tried to hypnotise any of the guards?
Couldn't all our men are completely immune to hypnotism? Prove it to you.
Well, he's putting on weight.
Poor chap. Can't get the exercise.
What's the purpose of this live video feed? Just to fat shame the guy?
I am the Master, and you will obey me. You understand? You will obey me.
You'll let us know when you finish with the book, sir.
I thought he was supposed to have been here for months by now. This must be like the 1000th guard he's tried this on. The Doctor and Joe enter the Master's cell.
Well, how are you?
Oh, come on, Doctor. This isn't afternoon tea with a member of the royal family you're having here.
Is there anything that I can do for you?
There is one thing. Please come in now and then to have a chat.
You know this plastic prison of theirs won't hold me forever.
Well, he used to be a friend of mine once. A very good friend. In fact, you might almost say we were at school together.
Why would you almost say you were at school together? You were either at school together or you weren't.
There we are then. Fooled them nicely, didn't we? What about that hypnotism wheeze, eh? That took them in.
You mean you're a wrong-un, Trenchard?
Do you think I could have another television set? For the bedroom?
Yes. Yes, I'm sure that's possible.
Colour, of course.
All the mod cons. The Doctor quizzes the lifeboat captain that transported them over to the island, who informs him of some suspicious occurrences taking place at a nearby naval base. The Doctor bribes him to look the other way while he commandeers his lifeboat in order to go and investigate. He arrives at the base and is immediately held at gunpoint by the Navy patrolman. The Master rigs his television to bring him a live feed from the surface of the moon. Somewhat of an improvement on the alien creature designs compared with many other stories from this era.
Only puppets, you know. For children.
Oh.
Incidentally, the Master's penchant for children's television was affectionately referenced in 2007's The Sound of Drums, when he's shown, in the guise of John Sim, to have somewhat of an affection for the Teletubbies. The Master charts the position of 3 mysterious sinkings that have took place close to his prison island in recent weeks, and notes an abandoned sea fort at the dead centre of all their locales.
Not abandoned anymore, old chap.
Really?
Hot people are going to use it as a sonar testing station.
Yes, well, these passes appear to be in order. You may go.
If Horatio Nelson had been in charge of this operation, I hardly think that he would have waited for official instructions.
Yes. A pretty impulsive fellow, if one can believe the history books.
History books? Captain Hart, Horatio Nelson was a personal friend of mine.
He's such a good friend, in fact, that I haven't visited him once since the commencement of the William Hartnell era, nor will I at any point in my following 11 regenerations. 12 if you count Tennant twice. Nerd. The Doctor and Joe approach the fort by boat and enter. You'll notice Katie Manning here in no way takes on the physical characteristics of male stunt double Stuart Fell, and her hair remains as natural looking as ever. They're holding back the reveal of the story's monster like they did with the Silurians. I'm not getting my hopes up for an awesome looking creature this time around. They explore the fort but find it to be deserted.
In the petrol tank.
It wouldn't just blow up by itself.
Blow up? Disintegrate more like? There's nothing there.
Doctor, do you realise we're stranded here?
Don't worry, Joe. There must be a radio on this fort somewhere. We'll just have to get a message back to shore. Come on.
It's a reveal. It's a reveal! It's kind of better than the Silurian design. But those of you that don't know, the monsters depicted here are supposed to be the aquatic cousins of the Silurian race, the Eocene-era reptilian mammals that, according to the show's mythology, were the original inhabitants of the planet Earth before man, that have been in hiding below the Earth's surface for millions of years. The Doctor and Joe are attacked by one of the fort workers.
From the sea devil.
Ooh, title drop. They help the wretched worker to his bunk.
Now, are there any more transmitters on this fort?
What do you want to do, listen to Night Ride?
It is possible to turn a receiver into a transmitter, you know. You connect the output of your loudspeaker into the input of your low-frequency amplifier. Then you connect the output of your low-frequency amplifier into your oscillator.
Of course, it's very easy to know all this when I blatantly have it written down on the side of my wrist.
Oh. Where exactly are these transistor radios?
Cruise quarters.
Okay guys, time to show your nerd credentials. Clark here is played by Declan Mulholland. Can anyone tell me why, aside from his appearance here, he is noteworthy in the pantheon of geek culture? Anyone? No? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... Yes, that's right, he was the original Jabba the Hutt, everyone. The Doctor encounters the stray sea devil.
Don't be alarmed. I've no wish to harm you.
If only the feeling was mutual, Doctor. The sea devil attempts to attack him with a CD. In 1972, no less.
What are you doing?
Those creatures can cut through anything. Rock, metal, anything.
Even polystyrene if they possess enough acetone. The Doctor sends an electrical charge through the door, scaring off their assailant. They lay chase to the creature, however he manages to escape through the window. The Doctor manages to get his makeshift radio working.
Hello, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
It's a helicopter!
Well, do I say so myself? I think that's a remarkably efficient piece of work.
Alright, Pertwee, this may be an ocean set story, but you're not in the Navy Lark now, you know. They are rescued and returned to Captain Hart's office. Meanwhile, Trenchard gains access to HMS Sea Spite in his Citroën design floor, only to reveal that in the boot of the car is an unexpected stowaway.
Eyes! Oi!
Who get hurt? Whoops! I've got your number back. You couldn't afford me, dear 2-3.
Doctor, Miss Grant, thought you two had left the island yesterday.
Well, we didn't quite manage to get away.
I wish I could get away right now from your personal space invasion, you old creep. Meanwhile, the Master raised the supply store for some electricals. Joe spots the Master crossing the parade ground.
It was him. Look, I know it was.
The Doctor and Joe return to the prison and confront Trenchard in his office.
I have reason to believe that your prisoner has escaped.
Nonsense. There you are, you see, safe and sound.
The Doctor tells Joe to return to the naval base and contact UNIT.
Oh, I think there's something wrong with the air conditioning in here. No, that grill seems to be blocked.
Little known fact about human anatomy. If you want to knock someone unconscious, the best place to hit them isn't the head, but is in fact the small of the back. Back in Trenchard's office, the Doctor dips about a bit for no readily apparent reason.
You were saying, Colonel?
Okay, old chap, if you're worried, I suggest you go and see the prisoner yourself.
The Doctor confronts the Master in his cell.
Been out for a little jaunt, have you?
I can see that I shall have to tell you everything.
Good afternoon.
In the corridor outside the cell, a fencing match of all things takes place. After all, if you were keeping the world's most dangerous criminal under lock and key, of course you would keep 6 sharpened fencing swords just outside his cell for no readily discernible reason. All these action set pieces usually took place at the behest of John Pertwee, who saw himself as something of a dashing action hero, despite the actor being in his 50s, which, in the 1970s, read as looking like you were in your actual 70s. I never felt Pertwee looked the part of a typical action hero. As I've said before, the action scenes of the Pertwee era are one of the few things that don't really sit right with me. I never considered Doctor Who to be an action series, and when sequences like this take place, they feel like they're from another show entirely. Unsurprisingly, the action element was ditched from later eras of the show, only to make the odd, ill-advised reappearance in later years.
I always find that violent exercise makes me hungry. Don't you agree?
Great line, great moment. It would play well in something like Richard Lester's The Three Musketeers or Flashman movie. But this is Doctor Who. It just feels a little out of place here. Oh, and continuity be damned. Just look at the position of the carpet in these two shots. See, carpet under the table in this shot, and beside the table in the next shot. No doubt to give Roger Delgado a softer landing after this little stunt.
How many times have I told you? Violence will never get you anywhere.
Look out, Doctor! Incidentally, this was the cliffhanger to episode 2. What brilliant resolution did they come up with for how the Doctor will get out of this one? Oh, he just missed. The fight is interrupted by Trenchard, who promptly orders his guards to escort the Doctor back to the office. Outside, the prison guard attempt to apprehend Joe. However, the 5-foot-tall, 8-stone Joe manages to best these two highly trained military personnel. The Master summons the Doctor to his cell.
How very kind of you. How very unkind of you.
The Master reveals his plans to contact the Sea Devils.
I still don't see why you want to help them. What can you possibly gain?
The pleasure of seeing the human race exterminated, Doctor. The human race of which you are so fond. Believe me, that'll be a reward in itself.
Some have criticised the Master's motivation as being a little weak in this serial, petty revenge for his life imprisonment being seemingly his only motivating factor. Joe appears at the Doctor's window to perform some bizarre form of sign language. There, for a spliff, on a round, finger puppets. The Doctor calls the guard into his cell to keep him talking while Joe sneaks in and hides behind the door. After the guard leaves, Joe attempts to pick the Doctor's handcuffs. Right, so that's what all that meant. Well, I'm glad you got it, Doctor. Once the Doctor is free, he calls for the guard's return.
These handcuffs, they're far too tight, they're killing me.
I'm under strict instructions, sir, that you're to be kept on...
Yes, and as well as a blow to the back being able to render you unconscious, apparently getting hit in the ribcage can yield similar results. I think Joe must have attended the same martial arts training as Short Round from the Temple of Doom.
After you.
No, after you.
No, after you.
Oh, just stop dicking around, you two. The Doctor and Joe abscond to the beach with the Master and Trenchard in hot pursuit. They escape by abseiling down a cliff. Apparently this was a genuine abseiling sequence the actors were called on to perform here. I feel the need to point this out because the bizarre angle this sequence is shot at meant that the exact same effect would probably have been achieved by having them leaping over a foot-high sand dune with the appropriate posture. They're cornered on the beach. The Master turns on a communications device he has constructed to summon the Sea Devils. Luckily for him, one just happens to be bathing at a depth of 2 foot in the low tide.
There's only one thing, boys. We'll have to go through the minefield.
Or in completely the opposite direction that's entirely devoid of mines. The choice is yours, Joe. What a hero.
Relax, Joe, relax.
I won't be too concerned about being stuck in the middle of this minefield. 5 just went off right next to him. They managed to evade their aggressors from the beach and make their way across country back to HMS Seaspout. On their return to Hart's office, they attempt to explain the situation to him.
And what they're going to
All
do
right,
is...
Joe, all right. Let me deal with the explanations.
Me being the man and everything.
It's like this.
Only cheese, I'm afraid, the best the steward could do.
Oh, that's super. Thanks very much.
For heaven's sakes, Joe. Do you think this is a picnic? What about Trenchard trying to take us prisoners, then?
Well, I only have your word for that, haven't I?
Surely you'll agree that happened. Probably, ultra-high-frequency sonic beam. It's rather good. Come on.
No, thank you.
Sandwich?
Thank you.
Doctor!
I'm so sorry.
What is this, vaudeville? Meanwhile, the Master fires the communications device back up, summoning the Sea Devils out from the deep and onto land. Apparently, the original script called for hundreds of Sea Devils to emerge at this point. However, owing to budgetary constraints, the production could only afford 10 costumes, so, in a seamless piece of editing, They simply had the same 10 Sea Devils emerging twice from the ocean. The Sea Devils stormed the prison with their CDs of death, killing the guards and trench yard in the process. They find the Master waiting in his cell. The chief telegraphist detects one of their missing submarines around the island. The Doctor insists he be taken to one of their naval ships in order to investigate.
I want to inspect the seabed at the base of that fort.
The Doctor and Joe board the naval ship.
I presume you're a trained diver in addition to your other accomplishments then, Doctor?
Naturally. What's more, I know these creatures. I've encountered them before, so I know what I'm looking for.
And of course, I'm going to keep the cravat and dinner jacket on under the waterproof coat.
Is it really necessary for you to go down?
How else am I going to make contact?
I mean, I could always patronise them, I suppose. I'm very good at that. The Doctor enters the diving bell.
Well, good luck, Doctor.
And is lowered into the ocean.
Are you all right, Doctor?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. Hang on a minute.
And all communication with the diving bell is suddenly lost. The diving bell is retrieved from the water. Joe goes to inspect.
He's gone.
I don't want to keep harking on about the quality of the cliffhangers in this serial, but the cliffhanger to episode 4 happens at this point on Joe standing in the diving bell. But the reveal that the Doctor is missing happens at the start of episode 5 when Joe says,
He's gone.
I can't help feeling they missed a trick here. Why end on the shot of her in the diving bell? Surely a stronger climax would have been to end on the he's gone line.
He's gone.
There you go, nitpick over. We see the Doctor, having been captured by the Sea Devils in their secret underground studio B at BBC Television Centre on the day Top of the Pops wasn't using it. Sorry, I mean underwater lair. Back at Hart's office, Blythe greets a parliamentary figure.
Walker, Parliamentary Private Secretary.
I'm not sure why, but a common occurrence around episode 5 of the Pertwee era story was the 11th hour introduction of a brand new character. Usually a parliamentary type sent in to sort out the situation the Doctor has become embroiled in. This character and his motivations portray a marked resemblance to Masters in the Silurians.
This is our planet. My people ruled the earth when man was only an ape.
The Doctor debates with the Sea Devils over the need for them to battle the human race in an attempt to reclaim the Earth for their own. As a scene, it bears a striking resemblance to one in the Silurians, where the Doctor is forced into ostensibly the same debate, making this one of those sequels that relies very heavily on the beats of its predecessor.
This is our planet. We were here before man. This is our planet. My people ruled the earth when man was only an ape.
Your catastrophe never happened. Yes, but the catastrophe that you predicted never happened. And the apes that you left behind on the surface to die became man.
Okay, I just want to take this opportunity to call attention to the Sea Devils' costumes. Apparently, like the Silurians, the original intention was for the Sea Devils to be unclothed. However, it was deemed to be far less distracting to not have them naked throughout. The decision to have them dressed in what looks remarkably like discarded fishing nets doesn't really work. Okay, it looks out and out crap and not that logical. As John Pertwee pointed out, these creatures possess the technology to construct weaponry containing enough firepower to sink navy vessels. Surely they would be able to manufacture clothing of their own, rather than cobbling together makeshift identikit uniforms from whatever bits of discarded human detritus they managed to stumble across.
Let me return to the humans, and I will endeavour to make a peace for you.
Perhaps it would be possible.
No! Doctor is your deadly enemy. He must be destroyed.
Ugh, why does he always have to stick his oar in? No maritime theme, pun intended.
I shall consider what you have said.
Don't trust him.
Why can't we all just get along?
Walker orders an all-out attack on the Sea Devil base, using a heavy barrage of grainy stock footage.
These apes cannot be trusted. Take him away and kill him.
As As the Doctor is escorted away, another explosion rocks the base. The two guards are killed by an avalanche of polystyrene and wood shavings. The Doctor inspects the bodies. Aha, what do we have here? The last surviving copies of Doctor in Distress? The Master convinces the Sea Devils to attempt to dupe the humans into thinking that their attack has been successful.
Let them go. Let them think that they have won.
Let's just hold hands.
Meanwhile, the Doctor encounters two Navy personnel that have been incarcerated by the Sea Devils.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Look, would you mind keeping back for a moment?
Why did they need to keep back for that? Who the blazes are you, more like? Why, it's Captain, or should I say Maester Lewin from Game of Thrones. And Lieutenant Disgruntled Neighbour from Keeping Up Appearances. Maester Lewin and the Doctor break back onto the submarine that's been hijacked by the Sea Devils.
No, don't kill him!
No need to have done that.
Right, well, that's the moral high ground accounted for. The submarine crew attempt to flee. However, the Sea Devils hold them back with a Vaseline on the lens force field. Incidentally, an interesting anecdote about these model shots involved Peter Day, the model maker responsible for the submarine you see here, being questioned days after the broadcast of this episode by two officials from the Ministry of Defence as to what exactly he based the look of the military sub on, as they suspected an information breach. The answer was that the model you see here was little more than a mashup of a Walrus toy submarine, with the propeller from a remote-controlled airplane fixed to the end, and painted, and it was by mere chance that the resulting look of the model corresponded very closely to the top-secret look of nuclear submarines at the time. The captain fires the torpedoes and releases the sub as easily as a fresh laxative-induced turd.
All right, stand by to surface, number one. We're going home.
What idiot ordered an all-out attack just as I was on the verge of finding a peaceful solution?
But it wasn't Captain Hart's fault.
I'm the idiot you've just been talking about. Seek and destroy. That's what you chaps say, isn't it?
But the point, Mr. Parliamentary Private Secretary, is that you have not destroyed. You have just made them angry. Very, very angry.
The hundreds of Sea Devils re-emerge from the ocean in their group shots of 10 and storm the military base. The Doctor heads back to the naval ship with the intention of re-establishing contact with the Sea Devils and attempting a second peaceful negotiation. However...
Doctor!
Are you sure you're the right man to be negotiating a peace treaty, Doctor? You seem, how shall I put this, incredibly bad at it.
Take them inside. Dear, oh dear, Doctor, will you never learn?
Walker, Hart and Joe are locked in the server room.
Captain Hart, what about this?
Yes, we should be able to open it. But I could never get through the ventilation shaft up there.
He sends Joe through. Meanwhile, the Master has convinced the Doctor to help him adapt the sonar device to be able to set in motion the revival process on countless other Sea Devil bases around the globe. However, the Doctor has something up his sleeve.
How about a little test?
Joe releases Hart from his captivity and the pair flee on the base's hovercraft, located rather conveniently on the beach with the entrance hatch wide open, primed and ready for launch. Quite why it took me 90 seconds of screen time to give that order, I couldn't tell you.
Ah, no, I see what it is. I had the output jack in the input socket.
Sounds like you're talking out of your output jack there, Doctor. Joe and Hart return on the hovercraft, accompanied by military aid. And if you're thinking these shots are a cut above your average action set piece for this era of Who, that's because this story was made with the full cooperation of the Navy, who were apparently very accommodating of the show's production, almost to the extent that producer Barry Letts actually considered developing a modern seafaring adventure series that could be made in collaboration with the Navy. That show never came to fruition, but it can't be denied that scenes like this one, although slightly ropey looking owing to the ever-present time and budgetary constraints who would constantly battle against, do at least attempt to give the action movies of the era a run for their money, in their ambition at least. And talking of Barry Letts, for all his left-leaning politics, he did know how to end a story in a good old-fashioned display of violence.
Well, it seems like things aren't quite going according to plan.
Looks all right.
Look out behind you!
Geez, this serial's giving Resurrection of the Daleks a run for its money in the body count department.
This man is an extremely dangerous criminal, so guard him well.
I mean, quite why the Doctor suffers an exponential IQ drop here and leaves the Master, a transgressor infamous for his hypnotic abilities, under armed guard and not to expect the following to happen, is anybody's guess.
There's been a mistake. Understand? A mistake.
Oh look, surprise, surprise. The Doctor spots the Master making his escape and lays chase. Luckily for the Master, he's situated at a naval base where any number of seafaring vessel can be randomly found on the beach ready for the taking. Okay, I hate to be this guy, but I'm going to point out that these aren't actually jet skis, but miniature buccaneer crafts, a precursor that largely informed the design of the jet skis several years later. What an action sequence! I wonder if Sean Archer will catch Castor Troy and get his face back. Nice to see Pertwee performing his own stunts. Interesting choice on the part of Delgado though, to awkwardly hide his face in every shot he's in. Back on the beach, the Doctor finally catches up to the Master. However...
I'm sorry, Doctor.
They are returned to the underground lair. Under duress, the Doctor primes the sonar device to revive the Sea Devil bases around the globe.
What's the meaning of this? I'm your enemy. I helped you.
They are incarcerated together.
Once they see that the device works properly, they'll release me.
I very much doubt it. You see, before you reactivated it, I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow.
You know why that's a noteworthy line, don't you?
You really
Nerds.
Well, there'll be a massive reverse feedback into their whole power system.
Exactly. In about 10 minutes from now, the whole place should go up.
But we'll both be killed.
That's right. Unless we can both escape.
And what ingenious method did the production team concoct to depict them both escaping? Oh, the sonic screwdriver. Or the magic plot resolution wand as it's more commonly known. No explanation as to why the Sea Devils didn't confiscate it from him. They conveniently stumble across some diving equipment literally right outside their cell. I'm surprised there weren't any dueling swords stashed out there either. The Doctor and the Master both emerge onto the surface of the ocean and are rescued by hovercraft. You'll notice that unlike the previous sea chase sequence, Roger Delgado is clearly visible in this scene. I point this out only because Delgado couldn't swim and suffered from a deep-rooted fear of water. These scenes were apparently terrifying for him to perform. As someone who suffers from phobias myself, I can only commend Delgado for overcoming his fears and performing this stunt. What a trooper. Once on board, the Master appears to suffer some form of seizure just before the Doctor lays witness to the destruction of the Sea Devil lair. The hovercraft docks back on the beach, and the Doctor is greeted by Joe and Captain Hart.
I managed to destroy their base for you.
Thank goodness. Well done.
Well, I did what I had to prevent a war.
So, the Doctor isn't necessarily above a little casual genocide himself, when a plot needs winding up nice and neatly.
He's dead.
We were too late. The Doctor and the hovercraft said so.
Doctor? What Doctor?
And why didn't you question the fact that the Doctor on board and the guy on the stretcher were practically identical? Oh, what is this? Mission Impossible / the opening of From Russia with Love? And that is not what that guy looked like in the previous shot. That is one shoddy looking mask. I thought he needed resuscitating, not a badly done skin graft to the face. The ambulance scene from The Silence of the Lambs was less morbid in tone, and the Master lives on to wreak yet more havoc. Yeah, well, wise move by the production team. Having the Master incarcerated was an interesting angle, but like Hannibal Lecter, would have really become quite boring if it had lasted longer than a single story. And there we have the Sea Devils. Maybe not the strongest story of the Pertwee era, but still, an average story from this era is usually still on par with an above average story from later seasons. The Sea Devils is good old-fashioned adventure, containing some iconic villains, fun maritime hijinks, and it's an imaginative way to do a sequel, rather than falling into the trap of merely bringing back a popular villain or monster, which even the Silurians and the Sea Devils were victim of in 1984's Warriors of the Deep. The idea to feature the aquatic cousin species of your previous season's most popular monster makes this one of the better returning monster storylines, and can be viewed as an engaging standalone story in its own right. If you haven't seen the Silurians, you really lose nothing from the experience. It's not entirely perfect. The villain of the story probably didn't, strictly speaking, have to be the Master. His inclusion here seems to be largely predicated on the fact that at the time he was becoming a firm fan favourite. His motivations in the story are weak at best, and his desire to share the spoils of his exploits with a race of primitive reptiles seems out of character. Also, the serial, despite being a creative take on the returning monster format, does suffer from sequelitis, at least in its structure, when it starts to repeat the beats of the Silurians, and even contains some scenes that are flat out rewrites from that story. But besides these few nitpicks, I think the Sea Devils on the whole stands up, thanks to the ever reliable Let's Dix team. Pertwee is on top form, as is Manning, and you don't even miss Unit or the Brigadier, although I do feel they maybe missed a trick in not including Unit's seafaring division. Oh well.